All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we had a good morning with 3 back-to-back chapters of One Piece, My Hero Academia, and Jujutsu Kaisen. But the time is now 2 o'clock, and that means more Fire Force. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Yo, peoples! Kyushu92 here, and welcome back to the continuation of the final 5 chapters, final 5 volumes of Fire Force. Today we're going to be reading volume 30 of the series titled The Great Cataclysm. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? I'm getting myself all set up, looking all nice and professional. You know how we do here. Summary! Possessing Yu's body, Dr. Giovanni has turned the key to the Great Cataclysm. And with Shinra gone, Company 8 attempts a battle to defend Amaterasu. The Guardian Charon unleashes the last of his strength in an attack that is full of unconditional love for Haumea. Large-scale fires break out across the Empire, while despair fuels the flames that burn up the world. The power to fight against it is hope. As Special Fire Force Company 8 calls out for hope, the late Rekka appears before Company 1 as a doppelganger. Meanwhile, Arthur has taken Vulcan to Special Fire Cathedral 8. He begins what he claims is the final trial he must overcome, the Special Nintendo. Halster and Alessio, it's good to see you both. Let's begin and see how many chapters we have today. We have chapters 259 all the way down to 267, if I'm reading that right. Yeah. Chapter 259, My Friend, as we have both Vulcan and Arthur still playing this dragon question game. And they're playing because they beat the phony Drakon boss. And we have Arthur heart thumping, and Vulcan's playing as well, with Arthur going, Vulcan, I know. He was your best friend in the first village. How could he turn against you? They can't have the story do that. Do they really expect you to fight your best friend? And as Vulcan is saying this, we cut to Rekka and Lee speaking to Doppelganger. It cuts to Kareem and Lee speaking to Doppelganger Rekka. Rekka, I missed you, Kareem! Hoyan! I can't push the button to select fight. And then we're back here with Doppelganger Rekka speaking to both Lee and Kareem. Rekka, I don't want to hurt you. Just go back into my imagination. Don't sweat the details. I know I don't. Look at his chest. That's not Rekka. Rekka died. He can't come back. See, Lee already has come to that realization, but Kareem is still stuck on it. When this hole opened up in my chest, it felt like the betrayal of my friends. I felt cold, like I had been encased in ice. This hole here in my heart. Would it be wrong to say it is the hole in our hearts? And Kareem, not really fully registering that this is a doppelganger, is still listening to everything that Rekka's saying. But that doesn't matter. I want to despair with both of you. I want to bring an end to this world alongside the two people I care about most. And he says this with such a straight face. Now, I thought about this morning when I came down. No, actually, it was yesterday evening, during the night. I came downstairs looking for something to snack on, and I was thinking to myself, with all of this despair talk, the Evangelist would really get along with Junko Enoshima from Danganronpa. Because you know how she's always talking about despair and everything. I feel like she would get along with the Evangelist very much, especially with the whole angle of the Great Cataclysm. I was chosen by Sister Sumire at the orphanage, chosen to turn this planet into a sun. I lived my whole life to make that enormous despair a reality. And it shows Rekka even with this same attitude back when he was with Sister Sumire. It's not too late. Open your eyes! And I'm like, Kareem doesn't get it. He doesn't fully understand. Or he's just refusing to believe that this isn't a doppelganger, and he's still trying to make this doppelganger see reason. My eyes are always wide open, and now my heart is well ventilated as well! As Rekka prepares to attack them. This is not my fight, Kareem. Hold on. Sorry, had to double check with the boys. They're fine. Junko would be in a euphoria if she was seeing the Great Cataclysm. Yeah, she would be. She would love it. But then it cuts to Lee and Kareem with Lee going, "This is not my fight, Kareem. You're going to have to settle this one on your own, or you'll never." And then Kareem just silently looks on. "See ya!" as Rekka attacks them. "You've all just turned cowards, that's all. Say, but that's what I'm here for. Yeah! I understand. Say, I get it. Yeah!" And he's just constantly attacking both Lee and Kareem over and over. "You can do it! Say, you can do it! Yeah! You can do it! Say, you can do it! Yeah!" He's just over and over and over again. This dude has too much energy. He has way too much energy and too much time on his hands. And both Lee and Kareem are getting buffeted by all these shots. "Kareem, you can't run away from this." And Kareem still doesn't say anything. "The hole in Rekka's chest comes from your imagination. It's your feelings of guilt. It's the hole in your heart, Kareem. If you don't fill that hole in yourself, you'll never be able to move on." Because he still hasn't moved on. And now we're back with Arthur and Vulcan. "Vulcan, is it really okay for me to attack him?" "If you don't beat this guy, you can't move on. This part of the game is designed to help the hero power up. Your only choice is to get through it." "But we're best friends." And then we have a flashback of when Kareem and Rekka were, younger at Company 1. "I have a dream, Kareem, and it's huge." "A dream? What kind of dream?" "I can't tell you yet, but it's the biggest dream, as big as saving the whole human race." This dream was turning the whole world into a giant sun and burning everybody. That's his biggest dream, and he says it with a smile, but he doesn't reveal anything. "Well, if anyone can do it, you can. I'll be rooting for you." Then we have Lee. "How long are you two going to sit there chatting? It's time for the service." "All right, Roger, you got it." And then both Rekka and Kareem just smiling. And then back to the present. "Rekka and I were always talking about our dreams." "Rekka! I wanted to help you with your dream, with all my heart and everything in my power." "Thank you, Kareem! You always were my best friend!" And then it shows Kareem aiming at him. And Rekka loses that big old smile of his. "But the dream you kept telling me about, was this really it? I thought you were going to save the world." "This can't be your dream. You wanted to help people. So when you met Sister Sumire, she twisted that. She made you crazy." "My feelings have always been straight as an arrow. There's nothing twisted about them." "This is all about emotions. I'll never know the truth." And then Kareem proceeds to cool down all the air around him and creates these spiked icicles above him. "Even if it is your dream, I can't do it. I can't give in to despair." And these icicles starts to hit Doppelganger Rekka all over. "So you're going to get in my way again? Kareem! Rekka!" And then we cut back to Arthur and Vulcan. And then Arthur hits a button, and he goes, "I did it. I attacked him. There's no going back now." And then it shows Rekka, who surrounded himself with fire, so, the icicles really didn't stick around. And that's the end of chapter 259. Onwards to 260. Fire and Ice, the true story. A song of ice and fire, perhaps? But it won't take me 13 years just to get 5 chapters down. But then we have Rekka powering up. Kareem! I love you, bro! And then the whole area just erupts in fire. And then Lee just looks on. Then we have Konyongo. Captain Hoyan! Konyongo, stay back. It's dangerous. You're not going to help him, sir? Normally, I probably would back him up. But this is a battle to bring people hope. And if Fire Soldier Kareem doesn't have hope for himself, he won't be able to save anyone. I mean, Lee does have a point. If he's just full of despair and not being able to save his friend from the evangelist's insane plot, then how is he going to have hope for himself and anything else? That's going to set a bad example for Company 1. Kareem! The 3 of us were friends and rivals, always pushing each other to get better. Each of us needed both the other 2. To me, you and Rekka are equally irreplaceable. But Rekka is gone now. And I care more about you than about the man who is no longer with us. So you need to care too. I want you to care about yourself, so that you, Kareem, can move forward. And as he's saying this, it cuts to Kareem ringing his bell again. Fiery passion! And as that's happening, Kareem creates several ice walls in front of Rekka. Burning smash! And Rekka destroys these ice walls with just one blow. But luckily, Kareem moves out of the way so that he doesn't get caught up in these blows as well. Ah, the memories! Takes me back to training, when you'd make pillars of ice and I would smash them! Yeah, those were the days. As Kareem is in front of Rekka. And Rekka rings his bell and causes a massive torrent of cold air to fill the whole area. Blizzarding blizzard! So even his own verbal tick snuck its way into one of his moves. I always knew you were awesome! Your cold can freeze the air itself! But bomb! And then Rekka stomps into the ground with enough force to, kind of crater it with a full step. And he brings both of his arms backwards. Like Luffy does when he's about to do Gum Gum Bazooka. Bomb! Blast! And with launching both fists forward, he launches a big old blast of fire towards Kareem. But Kareem rings his bell again and surrounds himself in more ice and cold. Can you hear me, Rekka? I hear you, Kareem. I would never let your words escape me. We were exact opposites in everything. Whenever we butted heads or we talked about our dreams, it was always exactly head on. Yeah, that's right! Whatever we did, we went at it with everything we had! And then we have Konyongo going, Lieutenant Rekka's flames are so blazing hot! Kareem can't freeze them fast enough! Fast enough! And Lee is just watching on. How'd you like that, Kareem? These flames are the dream I've always believed in! My dream of despair! I wanted to root for you, to help your dream come true, but I couldn't. And then Rekka notices that his flames are being overridden by ice. What? My flames are freezing? And then Kareem holds his horn forward. But Rekka, our friendship was real! And so is your hot-bloodedness and your passion for justice! And everything around Rekka freezes up. I didn't know the truth, so I ended up betraying your dream. But our friendship was a real friendship that nothing will ever shake. And that's good enough, isn't it? And then Rekka just goes, yeah, it sure is. And then it shows the hole in Rekka sealing up with ice. Like it's not only seals up with ice, but the ice actually starts to branch out all over Rekka as his whole body starts to freeze. I never thought you betrayed me. I kept things from you and Hoyan, and the guilt was like a hole in my heart. But our friendship was real, and because of that, you filled that hole for me. And then Kareem just smiles as he goes, Thanks. As we see Rekka being completely covered in ice. And as Rekka's his whole body's frozen over, he just goes, "This is how it's always been. The hotter I got, the more you cooled me down." And with one final, "Ah!" he screams, and his whole body cracks all over, and he crumbles into frozen pieces right in front of Kareem. And then Konyango and Lee are just watching.
Captain Hoyan, was this really for the best?
And then Lee is just looking at Kareem. And Kareem is looking at the frozen, charred remains of what used to be Doppelganger Rekka. I've killed Rekka twice now. But that's all I could. That's the answer you found. You and Rekka together. And then we have Arthur back with Vulcan.
Vulcan, he was my best friend, but to save the world,
You did good, Arthur. We're facing the end of the world as we know it. So what are we doing here? This may be a hot take, but I quite like this fight. That's not a hot take. Not unless you're making like a pun on the fire, on the whole fire aspect of the story, but that's not a hot take. This was actually a good fight. This was a fight not about strength, but about, I wouldn't even say resolve, but it was about unfinished business that one person had with another. And also a way for Kareem to move past his guilt of freezing Rekka, which in turn led to his demise, like his full-on demise. So I wouldn't say it was maybe a hot take, but you quite like this fight. Oh, it was a pun? Oh, you made a funny. Oh, you made a funny. I see. Ha ha. Ha 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 ha. Ha. I see. But Vulcan's going, so what are we doing here? And that's the end of chapter 260. Onwards to 261. The Night King rises. And we're still playing Dragon Question. And they've arrived at Castle of the Dragon King. Just couldn't think of a better fire pun sentence starter. It's all good, Allstar. It's all good. It actually wasn't a bad pun, though. Thank you, Vulcan. We finally made it. Final chapter. Dragon King Drakon. The hero's party has at last arrived at the Castle of the Dragon King. And it shows both Arthur. I don't know why. I literally just... You ever had... I'm a dude, so I got really hairy arms. Well, I wouldn't say overly hairy, but, you know, you can see it. But you ever get out of the shower, and then you just have that one section that feels like it's like a tickle? Like something is on it, but even though you've just taken a shower, it felt like something was on it. It was just like a weird tickle, but I'm good. But we got Arthur and Vulcan. The hero's final battle is about to begin. I never would have made it this far without you, Vulcan. I'm glad I was able to help. You have my sincerest thanks for standing by my side through all this. Why so formal all of a sudden? You're strong, Vulcan. You always keep a cool head. You are truly wonderful, not just as an engineer, but as a person. And Vulcan doesn't say anything. I'm talking about your friend. And then Vulcan remembers, possessed you. And Vulcan clenches his fist. You don't know where you is, do you? You must be beside yourself with worry. He is a dear ally. Then Vulcan loosens his grip. I remember when you first stumbled into my workshop, like it was yesterday. After what had happened with my dad and Grandpa and Giovanni, I wasn't about to take on an apprentice, and I told him so, but he kept coming back. Every time he had this big grin on his face saying, make me your apprentice, and he had this toy that he never let go of. I always figured he was some spoiled rich kid trying to find some way to entertain himself. And oddly enough, this toy looks just like Excalibur. From Soul Eater, it looks exactly like Excalibur. Clothes, and the only thing it's missing is the top hat and the cane. I always figured he was some spoiled rich kid trying to find some way to entertain himself. But one day, I went into town to buy some things and I found you in an alley, wrapped up in a blanket. When I asked, he told me he'd lost his parents in a fire. Most ordinary orphans get put into the Holy Soul Temple's orphanage, but you said he didn't want to go there. It wasn't the sun god that kept him going when he was all alone. It was that junky doll he was always holding on to. That's why he came to me. He wanted to be an engineer and make junk. I'd promised myself I wouldn't take any apprentices, so I decided to adopt you as a member of my family. I can still see the smile on his face. And it shows you, even younger at this age, just with his big teary-eyed smile, like genuine happiness. After a while, Lisa came along, and the three of us all lived together. Your family, after all. Tell me more. And then Vulcan thinks and just continues. He was always watching me at work and copying what I did, like a real little brother. So I decided, as the big brother, that I would protect you and Lisa no matter what. I may be an engineer from a small-time workshop, but I was going to make them happy. But when all is said and done, I'm a behind-the-scenes guy. I wanted to be a hero like you and Shinra, at least for them. And then he starts crying. But I couldn't protect him. Dang it. And he just slumps over and, Arthur consoles him. Let me handle it. I will find a way. For you, for Dragon, for Shinra wherever he is, I will take the Excalibur you forged for me, and I will find a way. Then we get back with Maki as they're directing civilians.
Please go to that elementary school. You'll be safe there.
And Hina was helping out as well. And then we have Tamaki.
Don't worry! Don't give up hope! Everything is going to be okay!
Oh, good. Now we'll be saved. Thank you so much, Company 8. And then everyone is giving genuine smiles because Company 8 is still working on giving everybody hope.
I can see the relief coming back to the civilians' faces.
I hope that helps the situation. And that's Hinawa. Then we cut back to the firestorm still raging as Captain Obi looks on. And then we cut back to the Defense Force Agency. Yeah, we cut back to the Army. We cut back to the Defense Force Agency. Reporting in! The fires are not subsiding! Infernals are still increasing! According to Captain Obi, we can control the damage by giving people hope, but how can this be? As we cut back to General Oze. Nothing is changing! Then we have Licht and Joker. Licht. There's no doubt in my mind. In the end, the majority of human beings are nothing but fuel for the establishment. Apparently, there's no point in saving the nameless masses of people who just run around screaming with no idea of how this world's story works. So you're saying the faceless extras have no value? In every age of time, the world is built up by a mere handful of main players who established the way of things. And then we have Sister Sumire and Adola going,
Your efforts are futile, Fire Force. Who would give a second thought to these brainless bug droppings who just let themselves get carried along with no mind of their own? As long as the strong ones are in despair, the Cataclysm will be unstoppable. Then we cut back to Arthur as he's facing off the Dragon King. Arthur, we made it. We're here. This is a battle against Dragon King Drakon. And then I guess Arthur, this feels very fourth wall-like. Because it seems like Sister Sumire is looking out of the panel at us, doesn't it? But apparently Arthur puts the controller down and Vulcan looks over as Arthur gets up. What's up? Bathroom break? No. You're not going to finish the game? My preparations are complete. Huh? And then Arthur picks up Excalibur. From here on out, it is my own battle.
I will strike down the real dragon. Arthur, what's gotten into you? But there is something I must do first. Oh, feels very fourth wall-like with what Licht was saying. In every age of time, the world is built upon a mere handful of main players who establish the way of things. Yeah, that's very, very meta of him, if you will. Arthur, what's gotten into you? But there is something I must do first. Before beating the dragon? Vulcan, take hold of Excalibur. Me? But why? Point this sword skyward, and Excalibur will show us where to find you. What? I didn't make Excalibur to be able to... And then Arthur just looks back at Vulcan and Vulcan goes, You're serious? And that's the end of chapter 261. Onwards to 262. A vow upon a sword. Point the sword skyward? Then it will show us where to find you. I can't make it do that. Excalibur is a holy sword crafted by you, and Lisa together. Filled with the love you share for each other. It will know where you is. And then Vulcan takes the sword out. Since he doesn't have any powers, it doesn't ignite. It's just this scabbard. You're always saying really crazy out there things, Arthur. But you would never lie to me. Still, if nothing happens, this is gonna be really embarrassing. And then Vulcan holds up his sword. Holds up Excalibur to the sky. Your feelings for you will guide you to our destination. My feelings for you. Then, all of a sudden, Excalibur ignites, and it starts to point in a direction. In a direction. What? How? Seriously? Excalibur is telling us, you is that way. Huh? How did I do that? Is that really where he is? I never made it possible for the sword to do this. So how? We will now use teleportation magic to go to you. Hold on tight, Vulcan. What? Huh? As Arthur grabs on to Vulcan. Oh, spirits, carry us forth. I'm pretty sure that's still not... Zoom! Please stop. And then we cut to another location as we have a figure going,
This is the moment I've been waiting for. I knocked and knocked and knocked and knocked and knocked and knocked on the stone bridge, waiting for this moment, infesting new young bodies again and again and again, waiting and waiting and waiting for this moment.
As we see you, possessed by Dr. Giovanni, but his body has become deformed. What used to be Yu's short little body, well, it looks like this now. He's taller and his arms are more lanky. He looks even more skeletal, like he's wasting away. But that's how Yu looks now, possessed by Giovanni. Infesting new young bodies again and again and again and again until they're both dead. I'm sorry, wrong character. Gio-Yu. Yeah, I could say Gio-Yu. Giovanni-Yu. Giovanni. Giovanni? Giovanni. No, Gio-Yu.
Infesting new young bodies again and again and again. Waiting and waiting and waiting for this moment. Now, at last, I will witness the end of the world. My dearest wish will finally be realized. Oh, Adola, at last you will be visible to mine eyes. Oh, great evangelist, quickly, let me see your countenance.
Then there's a big old explosion, like a video game explosion, like an 8-bit explosion happening behind Gio-Yu. And Gio-Yu looks behind him, and we have Arthur and Vulcan, who apparently managed to just straight up teleport over to where he was. And Gio-Yu just looks at him. You! When Gio-Yu looks at Vulcan and goes, you, Y-O-U. And then Vulcan goes, you, Y-U.
When? How did you know where to find me?
Giovanni, give you back! I have already become one with Yu's body,
In fact, you ought to thank me. This body has been given the privilege of becoming the fuel to help me grant my dearest wish. That's Yu's body. It belongs to him. It's too late. I have already infested Yu's brain and assimilated with it. So that's where you're hiding. Of course, I wouldn't mind returning the body after I've seen Adola, but then by that time the world will have already been destroyed.
Then we have Arthur, who stands in front of you, and we just see a beam goes like his sword doesn't even ignite. He's just in front of Gou, and we just see a line go straight through Gou, causing him to fall backwards. I don't know what Arthur did, but he did something.
Knaves like you who buzz about, only looking on outward appearances, can leave no legacy and gain no knowledge. Be gone, vile, cowardly insect!
As the eyes of Giovanni start to get increasingly veiny, and Yu falls into Arthur's arms.
You! Worry not. I burned only the essence of Giovanni that had nested in Yu's brain. Just like a gamma knife.
And then Yu starts to wake up.
You! Vulcan? And Arthur? Is that really you? You? Is it you? It is you, isn't it?
See? He's saying, is that really you? Y-O-U. You. Y-U. It is you. Y-U. Isn't it? And this is how strong Arthur has gotten just by playing a video game. Crazy, isn't it? This man took the level up status of a video game and has used it in real life and has become exponentially more powerful. This man has prestige. This man has decided, you know what? I'm going to prestige my level and go past level 99. Just how strong is he?
It is you, isn't it? Thank goodness. Vulcan? What's the matter? Thank you, Arthur. I don't even know what to call you anymore. You may call me without hesitation the Night King,
as Arthur puts on his Fire Force jacket.
With your help, Vulcan, I have reached the pinnacle of knighthood. My thanks! Now I have fulfilled my promise to you, Vulcan. I have one promise yet to keep. Yeah, so you're leaving? One more promise?
And then there's rumbling all over. There's rumbling happening all over this roof that they're on.
What's the shaking? What happened to the world?
The world shook as if it would fall to cinders. Instinctively, Arthur knew its cause. In that moment, the horizon caught fire. And it shows pretty much the horizon. Everything just explodes into a massive blast of fire in the distance. So bright, it lights up the sky.
It's the end of the world! Dragon is in despair.
Then we cut to Tama Bay, and we get more narration. The source of these flames that bathed the horizon in red was indeed missile accuracy 100%! And the target? No human can survive a hit from a missile!
Worthless. You humans are utterly worthless.
The great beast of despair, Dragon. In a physical manifestation of Dragon's despair, a deep-sea volcano bursts forth. Eruption! And then it shows a volcano bursting up right behind Dragon as he's just floating in the air. And then we cut back to Arthur.
Dragon is one of the strong. His despair is accelerating the death of the world. I cannot keep him waiting any longer.
As Arthur puts his hood back on.
How long will you keep me waiting? I deliberately chose to return to this planet, boy. Where are you, child?
As he screams out for Arthur.
I'm on my way. Waste no time.
Now you can see why nothing is changing. Nothing is changing because Dragon is still alive. This man's despair trumps over everyone else's hope so much that with him still being alive and despairing, That's counteracting everything that Captain OB is doing, which means that Dragon needs to be removed. But that is the end of chapter 262. Onwards to 263, Battle of Mythic Proportions. And then we just see the 8-bit teleportation effect.
He disappeared.
And this is you with Vulcan, because Arthur just this man can now use his sword like a gamma knife to get rid of brain-sized parasites. This man can now teleport. Teleportation is already broken enough as it is, but you know.
He disappeared.
He went to settle the score with Dragon.
Vulcan? What happened to Arthur while I was out of my mind?
He played a video game.
What?
He played Special Nintendo. That's all.
Special Nintendo?
Arthur played that Special Nintendo RPG, and now he's as strong as he's ever been. And then you, really, like any sensible person, can't make sense of how playing a video game makes you stronger in real life. But then you goes,
you know, I think I get it. I know how he feels. Like when I get excited after I watch a kung fu movie, because I feel like it made me stronger.
Ah, inspiration after watching something awesome. You know what? Yeah, that's actually relatable as well. Can't tell you how awesome it is to watch the Hulk do anything and then think you're strong enough to do what the Hulk can do, even if you have like a much smaller body. I understand it. The power of imagination and influence, right?
Arthur's going to beat Dragon, isn't he?
Darn right he is. He's got the Excalibur we made for him. Then we have more narration as if this is another video game, because a speech bubble for this narration is like curled at the sides, like it's parchment paper or, video game oriented. Meanwhile, in a volcanic region that has suddenly manifested in the open waters of Tama Bay, literally volcanoes just popped up on the coast of Japan, just casually. Over the volcano where the great beast waits, thunder roars. And then it has Dragon standing at the top of this volcano, and then a set of feet walk in. And Dragon looks, and it's Arthur. Violet Flash, sorry to keep you. Great beast. You asked me for time. I gave it to you. Have you at least improved enough to alleviate some of my boredom? What happened to you in the brief time I was away? I doubt you will believe me, but in this moment I've experienced almost too much. I fought a life-or-death battle against my best friend. In a war against myriad demon hordes, I have lost countless allies. The village where I was born and raised was burned to the ground, and at the end of my epic journey, I became the Night King. There is little time left before the world perishes. I only hope you can last that long. The world will not perish. I will defeat the dragon and put an end to his despair. Despair no longer, for I am here. It is I who will decide if your claim rings true. As Dragon raises his arm. And then it shows Arthur hitting Dragon with such force that it actually leaves a mark. Mind you, it's not a cut, but it leaves a mark on Dragon's face. Because if I go back and look at Dragon's face, he really doesn't have many marks on him, just creases of his wrinkles. But he actually gets hit once by Arthur, and he's surprised as Arthur takes his sword two-handed and proceeds to cleave Dragon with a slash so powerful the literal whiff of the blade appears to go straight through Dragon and slices up the ground right behind him, causing Dragon to get sent reeling backwards. And then Dragon touches his cheek as he's been slightly cut by it. So this is pain. Interesting. Do not disappoint me, child. Continue. I demand more. As Arthur brandishes his sword and launches at Dragon. And then proceeds to hit Dragon in his shoulder, Dragon then unleashes a blast that sends Arthur skyward, straight through the clouds, so high that he's now in the air right where the moon is, or at least, parallel to it from this perspective. And then we get more narration. The dragon's roar rends the heavens. And then we have Dragon flying up through this cloud to fight Arthur in the air. And then he starts flying towards Arthur. Violet flash! And then Dragon's looking around as something starts buzzing all around him, and it's electricity. And then he's looking around for Arthur, who's no longer there. And he looks down towards the storm clouds formed from these volcanoes forming.
You've gone inside the thundercloud? I had expected somewhat better, but you merely hide amongst the clouds out of fear of the great dragon?
And then Arthur goes, never assume. The lightning in the thunderclouds gathers to the holy sword as, the lightning inside these thunderclouds start to cling to Excalibur. Violet flash, reverse plunge! And Arthur flies up out of the clouds and slashes straight up the chest of Dragon. And this time, through the dragon's impenetrable flesh, this time Arthur managed to draw blood from Dragon.
I felt that.
My sword strikes true! Through the dragon's impenetrable flesh ran a violet flash of electricity. Arthur has finally damaged Dragon enough to make him bleed.
And if he bleeds, we can kill it.
But that's the end of chapter 263, onwards to 264. He who transcends.
Only Haki can transcend all.
But we're getting more narration. Since ancient... I'm going to read just like George Takei.
Since ancient times, upon hearing the thunder reverberate through the sea of clouds, humanity has envisioned an enormous creature that resides within the heavenly mists.
And it just shows like the classic Eastern-style dragons that, kind of like Kaido.
In a land that perished in the great Cataclysm, known before the Cataclysm as Iraq, and called Babylonia long before that, there appeared a single young boy. Everywhere he went only ashes remained, yet he was unscathed. People called this boy the walking natural disaster, Dragon.
And we're getting Dragon when he was a kid.
In his years-long march, he devastated everything in his path, seeking and destroying anything that remained. Feats that truly could only be accomplished by a disaster.
And it shows Dragon when he was a little bit older. Like in his 20s or so.
Worthless. A natural disaster of a man who shook heaven and earth, bringing despair to all humanity. But his despair was the greatest of all. Rather, he had nothing in his heart but despair. Optimism, wishful thinking, such feelings can only be perceived by the weak and the foolish. For Dragon, the ultimate incarnation of strength, optimism is worth less than the dung on his shoe. Hope was non-existent.
And then he just continues.
Worthless. Without an ounce of hope, and having lost all purpose, Dragon wandered, his enormous frame hiding the heart of a lost, helpless child. In his despair, this ultimate incarnation of strength despaired mightily, and with that despair the strong one turned his boredom once again into a cataclysm that would rend the earth and burn lakes dry.
And as he's walking, we then cut to another panel where a ginormous explosion just happens. And Dragon is looking up at it.
Who are you?
Lightning races across the heavens. Tremors rock the earth. Natural disasters occur in every land and time. Ancient peoples imagined these disasters were caused by a certain beast, a monster named Dragon. With no means whatsoever to oppose it, the people were swallowed up by this beast, a beast very much like you. I am Fairy, In 200 years' time, the great cataclysm will occur once more in the Far East. We need your despair to give it strength. Surely you're bored, living without a purpose, or am I wrong? Come with me, great beast. Come to Tokyo, and we will destroy this planet and everything in it together.
This was no hope in it. There was no hope in it. But he had found a purpose.
Winged insect.
But now... The great beast has seen a ray of light within the violent flash that pierced his flesh.
Blood runs through me as well. It bubbles through my veins like water through a stony reef. Child, nay, Arthur, I applaud you. Here the devastation ends and the battle begins. This will be my first battle. Make roar the thunder, my heart races!
He shudders thrice at the violet flash.
And then it shows Dragon swatting away Arthur as Arthur starts to skip across the clouds themselves. Reality has warped to the point where clouds are now solid enough for Arthur and Dragon to continue their fight on. As he just knocks Arthur back and he skips across it like a stone. Then he gets back on his feet as he stands up staring at Dragon. And then it shows Dragon building up another blast in his mouth. And Arthur prepares to swing his sword as Dragon blasts. And we get narration.
A heat ray unleashed by the great beast.
And he blasts at Arthur. And Arthur uses Violet Flash to slice the beam in half.
A flash of violet. Their impact rends the heavens and shatters the earth.
And this blast continues through the clouds and down into the city below, causing a whole bunch of devastation in front of both Vulcan and you.
Up in the sky!
The violet flash streaks across the sky
as Arthur goes and slashes into Dragon again.
The great beast parries.
And Dragon blocks it with both his arms.
Never before this moment have I raised my arms for aught but destruction.
So this is the first time this man has raised his arms in defense.
The battle between these paragons of strength knew no bounds on land, sea, or air,
as Dragon delivers a double-fisted downward blow towards Arthur, sending him flying into the ocean below. And the force of this impact of Arthur hitting the water eclipses the size of all the volcanoes that have popped up as well. And then Arthur is underwater. Arthur is suddenly underwater as he's trying to cough and trying to find his way up. And then we have Dragon, who just falls in the water without even... Dude just stays straight-laced. Like, his whole body is just, like, standing stiff. He just falls into the water like it's nothing. He's the only person that can fall into the water and it won't do anything to him. Versus people who fall into the water from ginormous heights. And some people literally just break their legs. It was careless of you to dive into the water, Dragon. Bathe in my nightly lightning! As he electrifies Dragon underwater.
My claws, my power, they sunder the heavens, split the earth.
As things start to rumble around Arthur while he's underwater. Mind you, can we talk about how he was also talking to Dragon underwater?
And they rend the sea as well!
As a ginormous hole opens up in the ocean. Right where it's a giant chasm where Arthur and Dragon are continuing their fight. The sea has literally split open just for Arthur and Dragon to have their fight. And Arthur standing on like a undersea stone pillar, and Dragon still speaking to him.
Too small, Arthur. This planet is too small to contain our battle. Do you not agree?
Onward.
And that's the end of chapter 264. Onwards to 265. Just Dragon and Knight. defying gravity. What? They gonna take this battle into space or something? But we see the ocean. And then we see Dragon elbowing Arthur, sending him flying backwards.
Surely this is not all you have to show me.
And then Arthur, landing on one of the walls of water created, stops, sees Dragon launching towards him, and Arthur starts to skid and slide across the water before Dragon can hit him. Then Dragon's chasing after him, and it's just blow after blow after blow of Arthur deflecting and fending off Dragon all on his own. And then it shows more blood flying out of Arthur. You know, just from the force of the blows of Dragon almost hitting him, it's enough to cause, you know, damage to Arthur on the inside. He starts to bleed just a little bit, but it's not too great. And some of the blood splashes on the face of Dragon just a bit. Then they stop fighting along this water wall and start fighting upwards until they just start flying. They're just flying in the air, constantly hitting each other. And then Arthur takes a moment to slash at Dragon, and Dragon gets hit with this slash so hard he falls into the ocean. Then Arthur goes after him. Then next thing we see is Arthur going after him charging up his sword with lightning, and then a giant explosion from underwater that sends both of them flying in opposite directions. Both of them stop on top of the water. Didn't know they knew how to control their chakra like that and just skate across the water like that. They both stop on top of the water, and they can continue to clash with each other. And they just stare and face at each other. Then Dragon tries to blast Arthur point blank, but he dodges out of the way. And then a great portion of this one panel is taken up by the explosion from Dragon. And as the water is subsiding and raining back down, the fights continue. The fights continue up the volcano, and Dragon is already at the top of one, and Arthur runs up after him. Then we see like a slash, and Arthur once again hits Dragon with another solid hit. Another one that draws blood straight in the middle of his chest, going diagonally upwards. But then Dragon grabs him, and slams him into the mouth of the volcano. And then Arthur starts falling backwards, and Arthur starts to bleed even more. But Arthur rights himself and grabs his sword once again, much to Dragon's surprise. And then Arthur manages to not only stab Dragon directly into his body, but also extend Excalibur like he's using Law's Kroom technique to extend his own sword. This man is extending his... It's like what is his name? Augur or August? August from Ashura's Wrath and his sword. You know how he was fighting Ashura and was fighting him and then made his sword extend all the way through the moon and then through the earth? It's that. Arthur has extended his sword to the point where he starts shoving Dragon straight back into the clouds again. And then Dragon gets launched into the clouds, but the sword is gone. And then while he's looking in one direction, Arthur comes in from the side and manages to land and hits Dragon on his shoulder. But it's like a beam of lightning that goes in one direction, and then another beam, and then another, and then another, and another, and another, and another, and he just keeps getting hit. And then Dragon smiles a little, and he brings his fist up, and he manages to hit Arthur. The Cataclysm is at hand. Ozzy, yes it is. We are on chapter 265? I think we're on chapter 265. Yeah, we're on chapter 265, and Arthur and Dragon are having their knockdown dragout. And it looks like Dragon intercepts Arthur while he's barraging him with these lightning blows. But Arthur, not only does he get hit, but he spins off of Dragon's hand, keeps his momentum going, and then Arthur stares him in the face, much to Dragon's surprise, with Arthur going, Violet Flash, Octo Strike! And we see Arthur's sword next to the side of Dragon, as if he's already cut. And then the sky itself just opens up into one big hole. Like there's an explosion from what Arthur just did. and it just carves out a gigantic, perfect circular hole in the clouds themselves. Then it just shows Arthur flying high, and he lands on the outer ring of this hole he's created with Dragon all the way in the center. And then it shows Dragon floating in a... Yeah, greetings to you too, Ozzy. Good to see you as always. But we have Dragon who's floating in the middle, and he's not smiling. He's still bleeding. As it shows Dragon with a cut not only on his shoulder, but a ginormous cut across his entire midsection as well. And it's still bleeding. And that is the end of chapter 265. Onwards to 266, Unrestrainable Battle. I tell you, sometimes these Roman numerals get me all the time. And it just shows Dragon just floating in the middle. Just floating in the middle of this hole that Arthur created.
Not bad, Arthur. But there is still much fight left in me. What about you?
And then Arthur just laughs. And then Dragon starts to laugh as well.
Long life has its advantages. I am well pleased.
And then Arthur looks as the rest of Dragon's, arm sleeves tears off of him as he's smiling. And then those same black scales that we've seen him cover up his hands with before, they start to cover his entire body. And they start to form all over his body and crackle all over his body, creating this body akin to that of a dragon. Though his head is still fine. His eyes are glowing, though. Okay, now he's turned his whole upper body into that dragon state, but we can see it fully uncovered. And he immediately, like he's spiky all over. He looks like a nobody from Kingdom Hearts if a nobody was just completely jet black. Like one of those dragon nobodies. Yeah, one of those dragon nobodies. And then he immediately flies over to Arthur and tries to blast him. And then all of a sudden, Arthur notices that from this blow, this blast from Dragon, it causes blood to shoot out of his face again because it's like one of those concussive blows where it doesn't need to touch to actually do something. And next thing we know, it doesn't even fully hit Arthur. It just goes past him. But next thing we see is Arthur flying through the air. And while he's flying through the air, Dragon flies after him, intercepts him. And while Arthur goes to try and slash at him, Dragon catches his blade in his hand. Well, he doesn't even catch it in his hand. He just blocks it with his knuckles. Just blocks it with his knuckles. And sends Arthur flying right back to the clouds again. And then Arthur bounces off of the clouds. And, since with these being thunder clouds and electricity still going through them, he kind of suffers some damage from the impact. And he bounces back off of the clouds into the air again. And then we have... Let me move this mouse away from the button that says end stream. I don't know why it was still over there. Then Dragon starts launching at Arthur again, but Arthur hasn't let go of his sword. And then Arthur launches his sword he just causes his sword to extend towards Dragon, and Dragon, while he's flying towards Arthur, swats away his sword and causes it to, break apart on impact. And then Arthur jumps away right before Dragon has a chance to just body slam him. And then it shows Dragon continuously using his own strength to continuously shove Arthur over and over and over again, still causing damage internally, while Dragon continues to go after him. Then we see black lightning just start to crackle around Dragon again, going,
"What is the matter, Night King?"
And we see Dragon punched into the clouds. Punch towards the clouds where Arthur is and try and smash Arthur, but Arthur protects himself by using his own arms. He manages to block a blow that, firstly, he blocked like a smash attack from Dragon just so casually, but it does damage his Fire Force outer coat. It does damage the sleeve on those.
"Do not disappoint me!
You have yet to see the full might of Excalibur!" And Arthur swings at Dragon, and there's like a sizzling line left on Dragon's chest as he goes,
"Yes, that's the spirit.
And Arthur dodges out of the way as Dragon attempts to slash him horizontally. But like I said, dodges out of the way. And then Arthur comes down looking like he's about to smash Dragon, but Dragon tackles him and starts flying in the sky higher and higher. And Arthur is doing his best to hold on, and he takes Excalibur and stabs Dragon directly in the back. And Dragon feels this because he goes, but it also shows Dragon not letting go, as it shows Arthur has completely impaled Dragon with his sword straight through the back. But Dragon is not letting go.
But if that is all you can do, you will never stop me.
Unhand me! Where are you taking me? And then Arthur looks over and he sees that they have flown into outer space. They are in space. They are in space. They're in space now. They're just in outer space. When did this become Battle of Gods? And that's the end of chapter 266. Onwards to 267. The Night of the Cosmos. And we just see a dark void. And then we have Arthur's dead. Because he has his hat on his face. That's the reason. That's the dark void. He's just staring into his hat again.
Honey, did you see something again?
Arthur's mom.
Yes, outer space, as usual. A sky full of stars.
Hey, Q, you remember what Arthur's new Excalibur was made out of? Yeah, the front part of a rocket. It's made out of the front part of a rocket. I forgot what is it called exactly, but it's a rocket part, like a space rocket part.
Yes, outer space as usual. A sky full of stars. So that's what it all meant. I wasn't foreseeing the world's future. I was seeing Arthur's future.
Our son's future?
And it looks like the mom had another baby. Like it's another. She's holding like a younger baby in her arms. Because I remember them having 3 extra kids, but I don't remember a 4th one, and she's holding another baby.
Our son's future?
Yes, our son is out there, fighting in this great big universe.
And then we cut to space. And Dragon continues to drag Arthur into space. And they fly towards the moon. They just fly towards the moon face. And then Dragon throws away Arthur with such force that he lands on the moon face. They're fighting on the moon. 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 Out of all the things that happened in Fire Force, I did not expect this. Thank God for manga. Because I would have been so oblivious to what was going to happen in the anime once season 3 came back or whatever. But did not expect to see them fighting in space. Now, I got a question about how this fight is going to continue. Because if I know anything about space, there's no vacuum in space. Therefore, no way for fire to work, because fire needs a vacuum in order to work. You rob it of a vacuum, you rob it of oxygen, you rob it of a way for fire to continue. But then again, it's for Arthur where he's using plasma, but at the same time, it still counts. So I'm just wondering. No one say anything. We'll figure it out. Remember when it was a big deal that Charon left a mark on the moon? Yeah, that's no longer a big deal no more, because now we're having a fight on the moon. The biggest moment from the anime for me was literally Charon taking a nuclear blast and then launching at a moon and leaving a new crater. Now we have Arthur literally fighting on the moon itself, and that trumps that completely. But Arthur's on the moon, and so is Dragon.
Here on the moon, there is only you and I. No one.
I started turning more and more. I am so sorry. I gotta be centered on all of you.
Here on the moon, there is only you and I. No one will stand in our way.
The moon?
The air in outer space is a near-perfect vacuum, with an estimated temperature of -270 degrees Celsius. Without protective gear, it would be impossible for any normal creature of Earth to survive in such an environment. If one were to set out into outer space unprotected, the heat would progressively leave their body, and they would eventually freeze. But these trivial matters are unknown to these warriors, and so they fight,
as Arthur is still fighting with Dragon. Now, here's the thing. I really shouldn't be taking into account anything about obeying the laws of physics, given the fact that the Cataclysm is happening right now, and all laws of physics might as well be optional at this point. The fact that Arthur is still fighting Dragon on the moon with no protective gear at all, might as well say like, oh, it's a Dola. It's like explaining how people survived in Naruto with Hashirama's cells. This is all like, oh, it's because of a Dola. It's because of a Dola that you can survive in space. It's because of a Dola that you can repel a nuclear blast. It's because of a Dola that you can take a video game teleportation technique and use it in real life. It's because of a Dola. A Dola! But Arthur and Dragon continue to fight in space on the moon.
But these trivial matters are unknown to these warriors, and so they fight. But the Violet Flash did know one thing. He cannot breathe. He is suffocating.
Well, so much for the laws of physics. Even though he's still fighting on the moon, there's no air. So he's slowly dying. And with that, his sword goes out and he starts gasping for air. And Dragon is wondering what's going on.
He is assaulted by the symptoms of oxygen deprivation, headache, nausea, generalized motor weakness, and loss of consciousness.
What is the matter, Arthur?
What is the matter, Arthur?
As Arthur starts to appear to lose consciousness, and Excalibur completely fizzles out.
He does not move.
And Arthur doesn't move at all. And then underneath this panel is just a blank space.
Night King though you may be, you are nevertheless human, fragile creature. Can you not carry on when separated from your homeworld?
Is this the end?
It appears that even you, child, could not sweep away my despair. I had thought you might at least survive until the end of time, but...
And then it shows Excalibur clacking in front of Arthur, because he let go of it. And Arthur's reaching.
You would abandon your weapon and beg for your life. I had thought better of you. Do not disappoint me like this.
And then Dragon starts to walk away from Arthur.
The weak are unworthy to receive death directly by my hands. Stay here alone to rot.
And then Arthur looks up at Dragon as Dragon is walking away. And then it says, Arthur equipped the star ring. Oh! Wait a minute! I forgot. Vulcan made something other than Excalibur. And he gave it to Arthur, because he said it would go with it. In the words, Arthur equipped the star ring. Do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do. And Arthur puts the ring on his hand. Arthur equips the star ring. And then Arthur gets up. This is what the star ring was for. Thank you, Vulcan. And then Dragon looks back and he smiles at Arthur. Dragon, I can still fight. I will not let you despair. And then Dragon's faceplate clinks down and seals up as he goes,
Then here in space, let us decide the future of the planet.
As Arthur and Dragon are preparing to continue their fight on the moon, in space, in full view of the world enduring the Cataclysm. To be continued in Volume 31. And that's the end of it, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm looking through here. I'm looking for some translation notes. Ain't no translator notes. That's the end of Volume 30, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so wow, I completely forgot about the extra thing that Vulcan gave Arthur. I completely forgot about that. And now with this star ring, imagination is his limit after all. If he thinks this is what this ring does, then you see it for yourself. Yeah, he literally is just imagining. This is like Takaba's curse technique from Jujutsu if it wasn't held down by his own confidence on thinking if it's funny, then I can alter reality. For Arthur, since his ignition powers are just so strong, now, since his powers are dictated by his imagination, it's now able to affect things on a metaphysical level to the point where it can actually defy reality. If I think this ring can allow me to breathe in space, I'll suddenly start to breathe in space. It's like, it ends with his imagination. Who knows what he can do? This is crazy. What am I thinking about this fight so far? We are seeing the power of imagination right now. Arthur is using his own imagination, seeing himself as like a knight and everything, to help him win this fight. And we've seen Dragon suffer damage. He got slashed across his midsection, and he got slashed in his upper and in his left shoulder. And Arthur is a lot more powerful than he's ever been before. This man blew up a section of clouds that just stayed empty. The clouds didn't move back into formation. It's just like a big gaping hole in the clouds. So that's one thing. Dragon, we see a little bit of the history of Dragon where he was just walking by himself and he's felt nothing but despair. He kind of reminds me of how Coyote Stark behaved before he separated into, Stark and Lilynette. We don't know what Stark looked like beforehand, but when he was separated and he couldn't be around other Hollows because he was just frankly that strong. They all died just merely being in his presence. Dragon has that same case where he just felt nothing but despair and nothing. He was just a walking disaster. So the great Cataclysm is the one thing that's supposed to give him, raise his despair, or at least get rid of his despair, but it hasn't done that, with Arthur being the only thing that's going to get him to that point. So, what do I think of this fight? It's awesome, and it's also kind of breaking my mind because I'm thinking, okay, so these ridiculous things, all the things we thought were amazing in the anime, that hasn't touched on any of this yet. The people who only watch the Fire Force anime, they literally have no idea what's in store for them. They literally have no idea what's about to happen for them. How much, like you say, insanity. You love the insanity this fight brings? Yeah, it just means that those who only watch the anime have no idea how insane things are truly about to become for them. And I'm not even done yet. I still got 1, 2, 3, 4. I only have 4 more volumes to go. We're almost done with this whole Fire Force read-through, everybody. We're almost done. And it's been a fun ride. I just want to say thank you over and over and over and over and over again. I'll continue to thank you for you guys tuning in to my read-through of Fire Force. I've been enjoying this entire series. I can't wait to see how everything wraps up with the final 4 volumes of this series. It's been a fun day for me to do all the reactions I did today, and then doing this for all of you. But I'm also going to take a rest. I'm probably not going to do any gaming streams today. This will probably be all I do today on top of everything else I did earlier this morning, just to give myself a bit of a break, because I got to do the beginning after the end side story, the final chapter for Jasmine tomorrow, and then the solo leveling anime starts tomorrow, and then I got to read another volume of Fire Force, and then later that evening I got to do a reaction to the newest episode of One Piece. So it's going to be a very busy day for me overall, but I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by and spending a little bit of time with me as I get to entertain all of you. Hope you all enjoyed. Can't wait to see you all in my next video. Just thank you. I love doing this. This really does bring me joy to just entertain others and use my own talents, voice acting and otherwise. it just brings me so much joy to do all of this for you. I've done 4 streams today already, so have a rest. Well, I'm not even tired. Sure, I want to get something to eat, but I'm not even tired. I could keep going if I wanted to, but understandably, like I said in my channel update, I'm going to give myself some rest and pace myself so I don't burn myself out, because next week is still going to be busy, because not only do we have Fire Force, we also got the new Film Red Pack for Pirate Warriors 4. I can't wait, but I'm done. Hope you all enjoyed. Can't wait to see you all in my next video. Like, comment, subscribe, even become a member, because I am always looking forward to entertaining you. So have a fantastic day. And once again, as always, later, peoples.